New year, new set, new season of Marketing Tip Tea Time, which is what you're watching right now. I'm your host, Aaron Zimala, and we are in season 5, starting out in 2023. We are crazy excited for season 5. We've been working really hard. As you can see, the set looks a little bit different. We have a new tea kettle, we have new tea, we have all of this fantastic artwork that was brought to you by our set designers, Sheridan Youngval and Alyssa Youngval. And thank you to everybody who has made the show what it is today. I can't believe we're at 5 seasons already. Starting out, we have 10 episodes this season, so stay tuned because we have a lot of amazing guests that are going to be on the show. Today, on today's episode, we are welcoming Jon Morris. At the age of 30, Jon started a digital marketing agency called Rise Interactive. When Jon sold Rise 16 years later, it was one of the largest independent digital agencies in the entire world. Jon's framework for growth is applicable across a variety of verticals to help business owners scale their companies. Please help me in welcoming Jon Morris. Here we go. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be on the show.
Oh yeah, it's let me tell you, we're excited to have you on the show. We did a little bit of research, and this is going to be a good one. So anybody out there who's looking for really applicable tips and tricks and some good tea, you've come to the right spot for marketing. We're going to dive into into the tea real quick. So here we got Harney and Sons Royal English Breakfast Tea for Jon, and I have the tin right here. Thank you, Amazon Prime, for delivering this to everyone on time. And we've got this new tea kettle. It's going to come out boiling hot, so I'm going to have to wait a second for me to actually try the tea, because we just did this. So let me pour the tea. This is always the hard part, because I do it over all of my technology. This is why people really watch the show, to see if I'll spill anything on an iPad. So, perfect. It smells amazing, very bergamot-y, and I'm going to let that steep for a little bit. Wow, have you tried the tea yet?
I have. This tea is awesome. I'm definitely going to continue to purchase Harney and Sons.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we try to have new teas on the show all the time, so as soon as this steeps a little bit, I'll give everyone a flavor profile. But first, we're just going to dive into some of these questions. As we said earlier, Jon has worked really tirelessly to build his agency into one of the largest in the world. And then he pivoted a little bit, which we'll get to in a second, and we're going to learn a lot about his transition to owning an agency to now helping agencies to scale and get better at what they do. But first, I'm going to do rapid fire questions. It's basically this or that, or like a single answer. You don't have to explain anything if you don't want to, but you can if you want to as well. So the first one is TV or programmatic?
Definitely programmatic.
Okay.
You
Coffee or
want
tea?
details or it's a tough question. I have both every day. So I can have to say I
Nice.
have to go with both.
Okay, perfect. And then what is a book that every marketer should read?
So I would recommend Avinash Kashik's Web Analytics an hour a day. Goes into the insights and the numbers of what decision making you need to do.
Wow. That sounds like I've never heard of that book before. It's rare that I haven't heard of a book before, so that's really cool. Um, Going back, you said maybe you had some more details about TV or programmatic, and you said programmatic. What's the reasoning behind that?
You know, to me, what makes marketing really successful is digging into the details. And the more you can dig into the details and ensure that you are not spending money wastefully and that you are allocating dollars to places that are scalable, I just found that the level of targeting and programmatic to linear TV is night and day difference. And so
Mm,
there's a reason why more and more money is leaving traditional TV and moving towards connected TV or digital or programmatic.
right. Okay. So a lot of it kind of comes down to targeting and then obviously some data coming back so that you can actually see
Yeah,
what's happening.
exactly.
Okay, perfect. So you founded Rise Interactive, scaled it, and then sold it 16 years later, and that was the largest independent agency in the world. Can you tell me
I
about
would
how
say
you
one.
started it
I'm going to
and
say
your
was
journey?
the largest.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
largest.
so
Yeah.
I went to University of Chicago for business school. I entered an annual business plan competition. Took second place, and I can tell you, 18 years later now, I am still very bitter that it wasn't first. Uh, but I used that money, which was $10,000, as my seed money to grow Rise. And if you think about it,
Wow.
there are 120,000 agencies just in the United States. So, what do you need to do to scale your agency? And there was a few things I think we did at Rise that allowed us to scale in a more effective manner. So, the first one is we were obsessed with gross margin. So, gross margin is when you
Mm.
take the revenue and the team that is dedicated to doing the work, we wanted to do it as profitably and as efficiently as possible. The reason why that's such an important thing to do is that allowed us to put more money into sales and marketing as a percent of revenue. We probably had the highest percent of revenue in uh, sales marketing as a percent of revenue relative to any of our peer sets that I know of. So that
Wow.
allowed us to have a huge edge that allowed us to scale. The other part is we invested very heavily in our service offering. I've said since day one, I say to my new business, our number one goal is never lose a client due to performance. And so if you can have a really sticky service offering and not lose your customers, and then you're investing in sales and marketing and good at acquiring new customers, your business is going to grow. Now, in
Wow.
order to do that, you have to constantly invest in your differentiation. So those will be three different things I would say that helped us scale and helped us grow.
Wow. That is such a unique story that you were able to basically get a little bit of funding and grow that. Now, many agencies, many marketers that I know, sort of don't invest in their own marketing. They say, "Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
marketer. The cobbler's children have no shoes." So what what would you say to
Yeah.
somebody who says, "Oh, I'm gonna just focus on really doing a good job for my clients, but I'm not going to do any sales or marketing. I'm all referral based. I asked my customers that are happy with me to just keep coming back." What's your response to those kinds of agencies?
A couple of things. One, I used to laugh because I used to say all the time, "How come I'm the only marketer that actually believes in marketing?" Um, but there's a couple of things that you have to think about. The first is, what is your goal? If your goal is to build a large agency and you want to scale beyond what you as a founder can do, well, then you can't wish growth to happen. We had a saying at Rise, and we have a saying here at Ramsay, which is it can't be a goal unless you put budget against it. So if you want to grow your agency, you have
Mm.
to spend money in sales and marketing. The other thing that I would tell you is that a lot of the mistakes I see agency owners do is they try to have their own team that does client work do the sales and marketing for them. And what I
Mm.
found is that you will always be second priority relative to your client. So if there's a fire drill and you have to take care of something for your client, they're going to stop working on your account. And so I believe it's really important that you have a
Yeah.
centralized, separate team that does your sales and marketing.
Wow. That's great. That's great information because I think that so many agencies fall into that trap where
Yeah.
they're good at marketing, so they think, well, we'll just
Yeah.
market ourselves. And then yeah, there's like you said, a fire to put out somewhere, and those marketing goals, those sales goals, just keep getting pushed down the line, so that the
Yeah.
team can take care of their revenue side, which is the clients, essentially fulfillment. So that's some really great advice there. And so your initial offering to your clients, as you touched on a little bit, you were really focused on building some sticky offerings that people liked. How did you start, and then how did you evolve those solutions over time for your clients?
So I always talk about when it comes to differentiation, you have to pass what I call the two question test. So, question number one is what makes you unique or different from your competition? And I don't really care what the answer is. It could be that we have better customer service, that we talk to more senior people, that we're data driven. Like those are all common answers that you hear. It's the second question that people tend to get stuck on. The second question is, that's interesting. I just met with 49 other agencies that said the exact same thing. So how are you different from them?
Yep.
So if you say that you have better customer service and 49 other agencies say that they have better customer service, do you offer 24/7 support? Do you guarantee a certain turnaround time? Do you use technology for bots to get back to people? You can think of ways that you can come up where that could be true.
Right.
So at Rise, our vision was to be the leaders in leveraging data to help brands make smarter marketing investments.
Mm.
Now, that is just a very long, fancy way of saying we're data driven. So if you take the second test, I just met with 49 other agencies and they say that they're data driven as well. How are you more data driven than those other 49 agencies? So our
Got it.
response was a couple things. One, there are multiple types of data. There's media data, there's customer data, there's consumer data, there's inventory data, there's pricing data. We
Mm.
at Rise focus on being the best at media data. And that means that we were connected to Google and Facebook and Amazon and you name it. If there's a media source, we are connected to it. We built it on a big data platform that allowed us to answer questions faster than anybody else. And we were very
Wow.
specifically focused on where were you spending money and identifying waste that you could automatically stop. But because a human going through all the data was not able to identify it as quickly, we could stop waste faster. And then the second part is you're looking for scalable opportunities that have a positive ROI. Our technology could identify those to tell us, hey, here's where you should spend money. Now,
Right.
what I'll let you know, and then the other part was if you're going to be great at using data, you need analytical people. In order to get a job at Rise, you had to pass an analytics exam, and it had a 22% pass rate. And
Nice.
uh, so now you had these analytical people, and we had our own proprietary analytics platform, which we called Connects. Now, what I can tell you is it's a journey. Differentiation is not like a marketing ploy, it's really part of your DNA. And you have to
Yep.
make investments in it every single year so that you're better and better and better at it.
Wow. So okay. So I do have a question about all of that, and that is that it seems like finance and marketing and data were all so intertwined with each other in your offering. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, ROI, bottom line, we're getting you impressions, we're getting you clicks, we're getting you whatever. Your name's out there more. You should be happy
Yep.
that more people recognize." But at the end of the day, that ROI is kind of what is the most important part, which I see a lot of agencies sort of don't pay attention to. Even today, there are a lot of agencies that don't pay attention to that. They'll spend $1 million on a billboard campaign, and there's no
Yeah,
analytics to to do that.
exactly. It goes back to it really all depends on what your goals are.
Right.
But generally, my clients at Rise wanted to sell more stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's their ultimate goal. And they're the chief marketing officer and they want to look good in front of their boss. And they want to say, hey, we sold more stuff this year than we sold last year.
Right.
And the more, the reality is every single thing we do as marketers is you have to take a leap of faith. There's no
That's true.
guarantee that what
That's
you're going
true.
to do. The
Yep.
question just comes down to how big of a leap do you need to take? And if you can use
Yeah.
data to shorten that leap, but you also have to remember there's different types of data. So you have to leverage the right data to help you make the best decision.
Right. So, on that topic, how did you use data in your own business for scaling, getting feedback, and for clients, you touched on this a bit. And then what role did Connects play? It sounds like that was your sort of proprietary software that you developed. How did that play into decision making and your ability to be agile and quick when it came to your clients?
So I would say that Connects was our media analytics platform for our clients. It wasn't necessarily the platform we used to run our business.
Okay.
Uh, the business we use, or the data we use to run our business, first thing is uh, we generally organized all the financial data. We were budgeting in a very sophisticated manner from day one. And so what we're looking at is, as a starting point, um, revenue by client, by service, by month. And a lot of people make the mistake of looking at things more on an annual basis versus on a monthly basis. And so
Mm.
we would generally have a good idea of, if we're going to lose a client or if we're going to win a client, what do we need to do to make sure that we have the right staffing, the right resources, so we can do that on a monthly basis. The second thing is what a very standard naming structure for marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, opportunities. And we would be very focused on what are we doing to generate more opportunities so that we can
Mm.
ultimately improve, the number of new customers that we acquired on an annual basis. So those are some of the things, I mentioned before gross margin. We had very specific definition of what gross margin is. We did a very good job in terms of revenue analysis. We removed what we consider pass-through revenue, which would be like your media. So we only looked
Mm.
at net revenue on a monthly basis. We then looked at what was the cost to service that revenue. And then we looked at a lot of different ratios to make sure that we were spending our money as intelligently as possible. But what I can also tell you, I work with a lot of agencies right now. Um, and the hardest part of running an agency is that our inventory are people and their hours, and they're people that we care about, and we want to do well by them. And if you have to make decisions, 80% of your cost are people. And so you're oftentimes making people related decisions, and it requires courage. You're forced to make tough decisions, and oftentimes we were willing to make those tough decisions to make sure we spent our money as intelligently as possible.
Wow. So, I have a question. I think everybody's thinking this now. If anybody out there who has any employees is you said something very interesting that you had basically a data test that people had to take before they could be
Yeah,
hired. 22% pass rate. Where were you getting those qualified people to come in and even take the test? And what kind of people, and this might be for any students out there who watch, we have a lot of students who watch the show. What are the things
yeah,
that those students need to know and do to be able to land a job at, one of your companies? What are the
yeah.
really important things?
So a couple things. One, we had a culture of promoting from within. So most of our hires were entry level to a year or 2 years out of school. And I'll explain why that's important in a second. But we would have generally do our own recruiting internally. We were posting constantly on LinkedIn. We were on multiple job boards.
Mm.
We were doing tons of just outreach directly to get people interested. Um, and so we had a fairly aggressive recruiting machine. Now, the reason why promoting from within, I believe, is so important is multiple reasons. One, the time it takes to hire an entry level employee versus a mid level or more senior employee, it's just a much faster time period. And
Mm.
so we were able to fill roles, because we had double or triple digit growth every single year but 2009, which I call my asterisk year. And so we were having to
Yeah.
hire quite a bit of people on a regular basis. The second thing is, from a cultural standpoint, it just feels good to know that if you get a job at Rise, that we're going to look internally first before we look externally to fill in more senior role.
Yeah.
And so,
So it's like a culture
um,
thing, kind of, almost.
yep,
Yeah.
And so we were able to fill our senior roles faster because we're looking internally. It's great for career progression, and we can fill roles at a much faster rate.
Wow. Wow. So, what were the main things you were looking for in that new hire right out of school, 1 year out of school? What skills did you say, okay, yes, we will bring you in and we will get you up to speed?
At the end of the day, we put a huge emphasis on analytical ability. Well, at one point, we were using an outside recruiter, and we called a finance recruiting firm. They place people at like Goldman Sachs and
Oh
banks.
yeah.
And we called them up, and they're like, "I don't think we're the right company for you." I was like, "Well, are you placing people at Goldman Sachs?" And they're like, "Yes." I was like, "No, you're the right company for us." And so there's with the explosion of data, there's a lot more analytically minded people, I think, in the world of marketing today than there were when we were first getting started,
Yeah.
in the early 2000s. But a lot of people, went into advertising because they didn't want to take math, and we were looking for math minded individuals. And
Yep.
so we ended up fishing in different ponds on your typical marketing circle to help us find candidates that loved living and breathing with numbers.
Yeah. Let me tell you, we have an agency that kind of is our advertising sponsor and oversees a lot of the production and
Yeah.
things like that. And the same exact thing is we get students who go into marketing coming out thinking they're going to be basically a graphic designer. I said, no, that was the art
Yeah.
school. There's a graphic design program in the art school that if
Yeah.
that's what, and they come out and they go, why do I need to know finance? Why do I need to know how to calculate diminishing marginal returns on next dollar spent in advertising? You're like, well,
Yeah.
because that's actually what we do. We
Yeah.
hire the team to do the pretty pictures separately, and then we're the ones who do the analysis, the strategy behind it, which has to be data driven. Um,
Yeah.
and so, that I think it's still a thing where students are still going into marketing. It depends on the program, obviously, but they're coming out thinking they're gonna sit in Canva or Adobe the rest of their lives and
Yeah.
do that sort of stuff or video production. And it's just not quite the case.
No, it's only going to get more and more data driven, and
Oh
there's going to
yeah,
be more need for analytical abilities as
right.
time goes on.
As a quick side note to that, what are your opinions on AI and AI's ability to compute massive amounts of data and glean some key insights and sort of just hand those to someone?
You know, I I think that AI is going to be incredibly disruptive, and I'm just going to give an example. We hired what is considered a best of breed content marketing agency at my new firm, Ramsay,
Okay.
and they would interview us. That it was like the amount of work that we would have to do to help prepare them, to teach them what we wanted to write about, and then they would give us our first draft. And what I found was, let's just say they were 70 to 80% correct on their first
Mm.
draft. Most recently, I have licensed Jasper, which is an AI
Oh
tool
yeah.
for content. And I will give it the inputs, and I would say that it is 95% accurate in terms of
Ooh.
writing style, level of content, level of details. It's not never been 100%, but the if you think of it as a starting point to getting to where I want to do, I can get substantially more blogs out at a very fast rate.
Wow.
Now there
And
are
speed is key.
elements. Yep. Well, I mean, I can write 25 blog posts probably in less time than it took me to get two blog posts working with that content agency. Now,
That's a
the
big
blog
difference.
posts are,
Wow.
the blog posts are a little bit shorter in length, and there's some elements that we have to manually do, such as if you want to incorporate graphics into the blog and have visuals that help tell the story a little bit better. But without a doubt, AI is here to stay, and it's going to be a really important component to the marketing. And I think it's going to be very disruptive for a lot of specific types of agencies.
Wow. Yeah, I think that that's a question multiple agencies have right now, and people who are in specific jobs, such as writing or data
Yeah.
analytics, where they're going into Tableau and doing data visualization. There's some AI that can go boop and say, well, actually, this is the way we think you should visualize the data. Instead of your bar
Yeah.
graph, we have this. Well, here's a histogram instead of that. And I think that it's making some people sweat right now a little bit.
It absolutely is. I think the thought leadership, is still going to be really important. So like if I take, like I'll give you an example of where the AI failed. I have a comment that says the ultimate boss of an agency owner is the income statement.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is a lot of people will say to me, it's like, oh, it must be nice not having a boss. And I was like, no, my boss is the income statement. And the income statement is completely objective.
yep.
My company is either growing and I'm increasing profits, I'm increasing top line, or my company is stagnant or my company is shrinking. And you can't hide from your boss. Like the results are black and white.
Yep.
So I tried using Jasper to write a blog post about the income statement is your boss, and it could not grasp that concept.
Ah,
So I kept on
yep.
defining like what is the income statement, and so there's shortcomings in it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm starting to learn what type of blog posts I can write about and what I can't. Uh, I haven't tested it like in terms of like incorporating stories yet.
Okay.
So I'm a big believer of the more you can put examples in, the better. I find that it kind of
Yep.
regurgitates the examples like exactly, so it
I
can't
found
necessarily
that too.
take it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so I think there's some limitations, but you just have to understand what those limitations are and either avoid those types of blog posts or that type of content until the technology is further along. So there will
Right.
be a place for content writers in that more abstract type thought for now.
Okay. Okay. Well, some people can rest easy. You just have to be better than the
Yeah.
AI, I guess, at the moment and in the future.
Yeah.
So tell me about pivoting a little bit. Tell me about Ramsay Innovations. You've mentioned it a few times. That's your main gig
Yeah.
now. What is Ramsay Innovations? What does it do? How can people connect with Ramsay Innovations if they're
Yeah.
interested in anything?
Yeah, so what we are doing is we are providing agency owners, really any type of marketing communication firms, from PR to web development to video production to branding to digital marketing. We help you with basically a holistic financial solution to allow you to get better insights to run your business more effectively. So this entails, your budgeting and your forecasting. It comes with monthly insights. What's your margin by service? How are you doing from a cash position? So we really help you understand all the different components of your finances. And the ultimate goal, and we talked about scale, is that all of us have time or money. And how you spend your time or money, how I spend my time or money, how our competitors spend their time or money, the information that we have to make decisions on is gray, but the outcome is black or white, going back to your boss being the income statement.
Mm,
We are trying to
yeah.
make it so that you spend your time and your money as intelligently as possible. And so the idea behind these insights is to really help the agencies grow at a faster rate.
That's amazing. I think, we have a huge financial push here at Marketing Tip Tea Time, Zova Marketing,
Yeah.
where, yeah, that's actually Josh French, who's upstairs. He is like our finance director. He crunches the numbers. Has a finance degree, and a lot of
Yeah.
people say, why is a finance person at a marketing agency? It's like, well, the finance is maybe one of the most important aspects of running a business, and not just having the business and running it, but also for clients to prove to them, hey, look,
Yeah.
your money did this for you. This is where you're going. And we can prove all of that. And that's, I think, what's really powerful. If you can say you spent $1, you got $9 back, And
Yeah.
that, and it's a simple equation at the end of the day, and that's really important. And I think a lot of agencies really need your specific service, because again, people go into marketing for the creativity and not the analytics a lot of times. And
Yeah.
that's a fantastic service to have. I know some people who probably need your your services there.
I would love an introduction.
Oh, definitely.
We're building technology, so I'm actually really excited. Next week, our technology goes into alpha, but we are building uh, initially budget building software specifically for advertising agencies.
Wow,
So,
that's
um,
incredible.
and then eventually we get into benchmarking where we'll be able to tell people how are they doing relative to their peer set. So there's a bunch of really cool things coming out.
That's amazing. I might need to check that out too. Shh, don't tell anyone.
I
All
will.
right, so a few last questions here. This is really for a marketer, and this could be agency side or just a marketer, could be a freelancer or somebody trying to build something. What's the
Yeah.
biggest mistake that you see marketers make, and how can they avoid that?
Okay. So I would say not having your goals really well understood and not being granular in the data in terms of making your decisions. So I talked about making monthly decisions versus annual decisions. Uh, my mentor, which is a guy named Jack Kraft, is the former vice chairman and CEO of Leo Burnett, used to
Oh,
say to me all the
wow.
time
That's a huge
that,
agency, but by the way, if anybody doesn't know, Leo Burnett's like one of the big ones. So,
but his comment to me was that if you don't know where you're going, every single road will take you there. And so, getting your goals really well defined before you actually allocate your marketing dollars is absolutely crucial.
that's a great point. I'm going to repeat that for our audience. If you don't know where you're going, every path will get you there. That is
Yep.
that's a powerful statement. Yeah, if you don't have any goal, then you always essentially end up wherever you're at
Yep.
for the efforts that you gave.
Right.
Wow, that's we call that spilling the tea here on the show. So we got a little bit of
Uh,
of the spilled tea there. That's a fantastic quote. Um, wow, that's really fantastic. So I guess my last question is, how can somebody connect with you, connect with Ramsay Innovations if they need you? Where do they go? Who do they call? What do they click?
yep.
And we'll have the links in this show. We'll have those links so you can click them.
Yeah.
But yeah, just tell everybody about it.
Yeah. So our website's Ramsay, RAMSAY, innovations.com. You can also email me at jon@ramsayinnovations.com. If you follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn, I do regular postings, best practices for growing your agency. And I'd say those are our main places to follow us, connect.
Fantastic. Everyone, go follow him. Also follow us. Like, share, subscribe. Like,
Yeah.
share, subscribe. All of John's stuff. And we're just really happy that you came on the show. This is the first episode of season 5, and we have a great lineup, like I said, for everyone out there. Quick note on this tea: it is fantastic. I was finally able to drink it.
Yeah.
It's if you most people drink Earl Grey, so this is the subtler version of Earl Grey,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's got a fantastic taste, and that comes in this beautiful tin. So
I got it right
amazing.
here.
Oof, looks great. Any last things before we sign off on the show and everybody goes to your website and says, hey?
A couple things. One, this is episode 1 of 10 in season 5. I can promise you it is only going to get better, so tune into all the other shows.
Thank you,
Second
John.
thing is, uh, if you own an agency, I want you to think of it. There are two versions to yourself. The first is you are the marketer that generally has some expertise, and that's why you started your agency. And the second one is you're the entrepreneur. And what you have to understand is if you want to grow an agency, you have to learn more about being the entrepreneur than the marketer.
Another tea spill there. That was some fantastic information. I think people are going to get just great information out of this episode, Jon. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who helps this show to happen. Thank you to Bike Shop Agency, our production company. Thank you to Josh French, who is our producer upstairs. Thank you to Alyssa Youngval and Sheridan Youngval, who are the set designers and graphic designers. Thank you to Peter Romero, our graphics and music supervisor. Thank you to Phil Van Drunen, our technical producer. Thank you, everyone. We love you all. We can't believe that we're in season 5, and we plan to bring you the best information on marketing and make it so that you can have tips and tricks that really will help you as a marketer, a student, a business owner to understand marketing and to take real action, real steps to improve your marketing and make a difference in your organization. So thank you to everyone. Jon, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. And until next time, everyone, cheers. Nostra Vi.